I'm excited to introduce today's last set of panelists who will identify the best practices for pro bono engagement and highlight unique programs. It is now my pleasure to introduce the panelists. Rochelle Bobroff is the Director of National Veterans Legal Services Program Pro Bono, where she oversees attorneys in the Lawyers Serving Warriors program. She previously served as commissioner on the DC Access to Justice Commission. Holly Christian is the pro bono manager and staff attorney at Swords to Plowshares. She previously served as the Veterans Pro Bono Coordinator and Chief Counsel to the Standing Committee on Armed Forces Law and Coordinating Committee on Veterans Benefits and Services at the American Bar Association. Celeste Como is an Associate General Counsel for Labor and Employment in the legal department at Verizon Wireless in New Jersey. Celeste has been involved in the Verizon Pro Bono program since its inception, serving as its Northeast Area Regional Coordinator and creating new programs for lawyers and other legal professionals, like the Veterans Clinic at the Lions Veterans Complex in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. My colleague, Jesse Medlong, is a U.S. Navy veteran and an associate at DLA Piper. Jesse serves on several nonprofit boards, including legal services organizations and organizations dedicated to veterans and to unhoused persons. Andrea Sursick is an attorney at Bay Area Legal Services and the manager of the Major General Ernest A. and Marilyn Bedke Veterans Law Center. Alex helped implement a medical legal partnership at James A. Haley Veterans Hospital, a referral system with the 13th Circuit Veterans Treatment Court and the statewide Florida Veterans Legal Helpline. Our moderator for this panel is my colleague, Rich Hans. Rich is the managing partner of the New York office and global co-chair of financial services sector at DLA Piper. He is also the DLA Piper co-chair for the Veterans Task Force Transition to Civilian Life Working Group and a Navy veteran. Rich?
Thanks very much, Jim, and great to see everybody here today. We have a great panel, and so much of what we heard today about about the various issues that our veterans are facing, ways that they can face or address those issues, and but what we also need to know is how can we get more pro bono engagement from lawyers. And so our panel here today is going to be kind of focusing on those issues. So I'm going to kind of throw some questions around to the panel and pick on various individuals at different points in time. But I'm going to start off with Alex and just ask what insights you can provide based on your experience, how best to engage lawyers to engage in pro bono service for veterans.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak here today, and thank you to all of our veterans that are listening in. Just to give you a little background, with Bay Area Legal Services, we are an LSC grantee legal services firm, and we have a 5-county service area. As a firm, we have a very well-developed pro bono program with over 300 volunteer attorneys at our disposal. We're lucky that we have a really incredible team, the Volunteer Lawyers Program, which is part of Bay Area Legal, that facilitates the vast majority of our pro bono projects. So as managing attorney of our Bedke Veterans Law Center, I've worked with our Volunteer Lawyers Program on a number of projects that involve our veterans community. So we try to offer a wide variety of options for our volunteer attorneys. Obviously, one option is that a volunteer attorney can take a case for representation. That's an amazing way for the attorneys to help, but not everyone wants to take a case on in full, or some people aren't able to due to restrictions of where they work or what have you. So we like to offer different types of ways that they can help. For example, we do have currently 2 VA-based medical legal partnerships. as part of our medical legal partnership at the VA hospital in St. Petersburg, we regularly host legal fairs, which is like an Ask a Lawyer type event, which are open to the pro bono community. Those types of legal fairs can be either general, just allowing any kind of question that people have, or they can be topic specific. So some topic specific clinics that we've done have been like a sealing and expungement clinic or an advanced directives or wills for veterans type of event. Another option is to create firm-wide projects. If you can get a whole firm interested and then set something up that coincides with their goals, it can really create a great partnership that can last. Those can be maybe like a one-time event, like one of the legal fairs or clinics, or it can be an ongoing partnership. So for example, Bay Area Legal Services teamed up with DLA Piper here in Tampa years ago to support them in what used to be a monthly legal clinic and is now, or it used to be bi-monthly and now it's monthly, that they hold at the Tampa VA hospital. So this is a great setup because DLA Piper provides the pro bono attorneys who want to be there and are very engaged with helping the veterans. And then our office provides training if needed, especially if new attorneys come on board and want to help out, but they might not be familiar with the substantive areas of law that they'll see. And then we also go, every time they're there to support them during the interview process if they have questions. I also wanted to add that several years ago, we created a separate veterans panel of our pro bono attorneys by surveying those 300 plus volunteer attorneys that we have to identify those of them that have a specific interest in assisting veterans. We feel that having a veteran specific panel helps us narrow down our options when we're seeking volunteers. So if your organization only assists veterans, then that might not be necessary for you. But if you assist both veteran and non-veteran populations, that might be something for you to consider. Last but not least, before I hand it over, I do really highly recommend working with your local bar association. So through the Hillsborough County Bar Association, where I am, we have a committee called the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee. And that committee, voluntary committee, is comprised of attorneys who are interested in supporting and serving the veteran community. So we've been able to engage our committee members there to help with events like VA stand downs and the Wills for Veterans clinics. So if your local bar association does not yet have like a military and veterans committee, I definitely recommend that you look into starting one. It's a great opportunity if you don't have one yet to get in on the ground level and help form that.
So many great ideas. And Holly, I saw you nodding at a lot of what Alex was saying. Can you tell me a little about what you've done at Swords to Plowshares and how you've engaged folks on the pro bono basis?
So Swords to Plowshares provides, we're a veteran service organization, and we provide a wide variety of services to veterans, including housing, employment and training, counseling services, things like that. But of course, the legal unit is focused on solely VA benefits and military discharge upgrades or military records corrections. And so within our pro bono program, we've kind of narrowed that down to military records corrections or discharge upgrades. And I think that as far as why I was nodding to Alexandra is I was, the successes and the need for case placement is always there. But what really engages a lot of attorneys is not necessarily the long-term opportunities, because like she mentioned, some individuals might not be able to represent veterans on a long-term case basis. But I think as far as our most successful programs with a lot of pro bono engagement and substantive pro bono engagement has been our legal clinics that we hold twice monthly. This was pre-COVID, of course. And that's really where the attorneys can help provide veterans with kind of self-help advice in applying for discharge upgrades, military records corrections, almost as if you were assisting someone going like pro se. So that kind of advice and follow-up instructions. Another really successful program has been our records review projects. And in that project, essentially we'll reach out to a firm or a firm will reach out to us. And they will organize a group of attorneys to kind of comb through the military and medical records of our current in-house clients that are currently placed with a swords attorney. And what they'll do is provide us with kind of a chronology of that veteran's military service, as well as provide us with an initial case assessment and where should the in-house swords attorney be looking in the records for evidence to support their claim. And that is really beneficial because a lot of times we get hundreds and hundreds of military records or medical records that is really onerous to comb through, and to have volunteer attorneys who are specifically trained, and we provide a records review specific training for that. It's extremely helpful. And I think that when we're talking about how to best engage the private bar and pro bono attorneys, those projects, I believe, are popular because they are limited in scope, but also still impactful, right? And so I think it's mutually beneficial for the legal service organization as well as the pro bono attorneys. And I think that's kind of how you can best engage pro bono attorneys to do this kind of work, is you create opportunities where the lawyers that are assisting you can either gain marketable skills or earn CLE credits or fulfill their required pro bono, billable hours within their firm, or just highlighting that work to their partners or to the firm generally. And so, making sure that the opportunities are mutually beneficial to both the client and the pro bono attorney. I know it sounds like common sense, but it is, I think, how to best engage pro bono attorneys. Of course, you have to keep in mind that there is a little bit of work, a lot of work that goes into creating those opportunities on the LSO legal service organization. But, I think Rochelle might speak to some of the difficulties and challenges of engaging volunteer attorneys, but I think that those have been the most successful projects in which you can kind of cater to the needs and the skill set of the private bar while also assisting your clients.
Now, Holly and Alex, do you tap into any of the law school clinical programs that might be out there to assist in, on the veterans front at all?
We have a good working relationship with the Stetson Legal Clinic near us, but it's not really a formal relationship at this point. And we're definitely looking into that because we do have several law schools near us, and we're very interested in tapping into that as a resource.
Rich, it's funny you mentioned that because one of our swords attorneys, Olivia Cole, just recently became an adjunct professor at Berkeley and is helping teach the Veterans Law School Clinic. So now we have insider help there at Berkeley. So we're looking forward to increasing, and maybe providing a formal relationship. But yes, we've kind of done ad hoc so far, but now we have someone at Berkeley. So we're looking forward to increasing that involvement as well.
Rochelle, turning to you, the challenges you face in trying to recruit pro bono volunteers to help. I would imagine, I see it all the time in our pro bono program. There are so many demands for pro bono assistance across so many different areas. And the veterans are just one of those. So how do you meet those challenges? And what challenges do you think we all need to think about here going forward?
So the National Veterans Legal Services Program provides assistance to veterans who are looking for benefits such as discharge upgrades, and we also do medical retirement, combat-related special compensation. We also have a training department that puts together the Veterans Benefits Manual, which is a huge resource that veterans advocates should be aware of, that has a lot of guidance for advocates. I think my co-panelists have identified a lot of issues that I also would put in the challenges column. So there are different kinds of pro bono attorneys. It's not a uniform group. There are attorneys who really want to spend a lot of time on a systemic litigation issue or writing a detailed brief, and they really want to dig in. And then there are attorneys who just want to do clinics and show up for an hour and be done. And so I think a successful pro bono program will have a wide range of opportunities, including research. So that's something that has not yet been mentioned, but sometimes you will have attorneys, especially in this pandemic. We were hearing, the attorneys are at home, their work may have slowed down, but they don't want to take on a big matter. How about research? And so if there's a research issue that might be of interest to your organization, that's another type of matter. Another challenge that's been alluded to already is that many of our pro bono volunteers have no prior experience in the in-depth knowledge of the law that you want them to work on. And so it's really important to have training materials. And that also, their pro bono firms and organizations are different. Some want you to schedule a training for just their firm, and they will get 30, 40, 50 people to show up, and they want you to come and present, and it's a pro bono bonding opportunity for the firm. And others, the pro bono coordinators, they don't want to deal with that. They just want to place that discharge upgrade case with someone, and they wanted training available to them. So we record our trainings when we do one of those, 50 people at one firm. We ask the firm to give us a recording. And then if there's another firm that does, the pro bono coordinator doesn't want that. They just give me a case, let me place it. Oh, and then I'll take a medical retirement. We'll take a training for that. And so having pre-recorded trainings, manuals that explain the law so that they have a reference guide. We do a kickoff call. Mentoring is really important. Pro bono programs don't want to be out there on their own with the type of case that they've never done before. So, assuring your pro bono partners that you will train and mentor and be there for them is a huge recruiting tool. And so I would recommend that. And then one other thing a third thing I was going to mention is one of the challenges, particularly with law firm associates, is that there's a lot of turnover. And so you may have an associate working on your case for a veteran, and then they leave. And so there, my recommendation would be to be sure you've got a pro bono coordinator who you can work with, because that's what we do when that happens. When the attorney reaches out to us and says, oh, I'm leaving at the end of the week. If you have a relationship with a pro bono coordinator, they will usually take ownership and assign it to someone else, which can be, really important. It's not just getting someone to start the job. You want to see it to the finish line.
Thank you, Rochelle, for that. And I'm going to circle back. I've heard a couple of mentions of COVID. We're going to come back to that at the end too, because it's certainly created new challenges and the like. But Celeste, let me turn to you. Verizon has had a marvelous program for a long time, and I know our firm has partnered with you. Can you tell us a little about what it's like in-house and dealing with it? There's just different challenges in-house for you. How do you deal with that, and how do you partner with your outside firms?
Well, yes, we are so thankful for all of our colleagues at DLA Piper. They were there with us at the very beginning of our program, which we launched about 10 years ago, and they've been with us every step of the way. I don't think we could have done it without them. You all have so much experience, and we had none, and so we're very thankful. First, I just wanted to say a few things about Verizon. So we have historically placed a huge emphasis on helping members of the military and veterans. We employ more than 10,000 military employees, and we're very proud of the impactful programs we have for our military employees, including our Heroes for hiring, our Heroes Fellowship Program, Military Spouses Support, and Valor, which is our military employee resource group. And so when we started the pro bono program 10 years ago with DLA Piper right there by our side, it went without saying that we were going to be giving veterans a front and center spot. They were one of our three founding pillars. And since that time, we've focused a lot of our efforts on expanding and strengthening that pillar. So very early on, we got a lot of people involved with lawyers serving warriors, helping veterans seeking to secure benefits. We also worked with DLA Piper and the National Veterans Legal Services Project to help veterans who were seeking combat-related special compensation. And in 2012, just 2 years after we started, 53 of our volunteers took on 29 of those types of cases, and they filed that many applications. And many of them, ended up very well, and we were very happy, and people were really excited about those kinds of opportunities. Back in 2012, with the help of Rich Grumberger, we launched our first VA legal clinic on the premises of the Lyons VA facility in New Jersey. And for the next 5 years, we had 6 clinics each year where we would go on site with a combination of DLA Piper volunteers and Verizon volunteers. And we'd set up a clinic for 3 or 4 hours, and we'd have pre-scheduled veterans, and we'd also have walk-in veterans. And we'd have anywhere between 5 and 10 volunteers. We paired them up because there was a little bit of apprehension about, whether they'd be able to help address the specific issue that was presented by the veteran. And I think it was a very successful clinic. Over the 5 years that we ran it, we had about 25 volunteers each year, and we saw anywhere between 100 and 200 veterans. And the issues that we saw were really interesting and far-ranging: family law issues, landlord-tenant law issues, a lot of expungement issues, driver's license restoration, and then we even saw a smattering of consumer bankruptcy and employment law issues. So our volunteers also participated in a similar clinic in Dallas at the VA Resource Center. We didn't run it quite as regularly as the one in Lyons, but we participated in that. Also, our volunteers have been very interested in homeless veteran stand downs. A number of our volunteers have participated in habitat builds that were focused on building homes for veterans. And then we've taken on a number of smaller projects which really tapped into people's expertise. There were 2 combat Marines who had met while they were deployed, and they both shared a common dream. They wanted to start a film production company. So 3 of our lawyers who had experience in corporate formation and tax structuring offered to help. They quickly identified that there were 2 of them, so we needed to have separate representation so that we could avoid any unnecessary conflicts. So DLA Piper represented one of the 2, and Verizon lawyers represented the other, and we set up an LLC, and they went on their merry way, and they were able to, follow their dreams. So that was really great. We also are very excited that tomorrow on Veterans Day, we're going to be announcing a new exciting program that we're partnering with Legal Services of Northern Virginia. And it's a few of the other panelists have mentioned the discharge upgrades. This is going to be focused on just that. So we will ask each of the volunteers, and I think we have about 15 who are going to be attending the training tomorrow. It's a combination of both legal department employees and then other Verizon employees outside of legal who are members of our VALOR, our employee resource group. We'll ask each of them to take on one matter, one upgrade matter, if they come through the training, and that's going to take place in the first quarter of next year. In terms of just, challenges, I thought long and hard about, what kinds of challenges we've experienced getting people to volunteer. And I have to say, we always have a long line of people very interested in helping veterans, and we've never had any issues. I think with DLA Piper, we've been able to provide some of the clinic model, and then some of the more involved disability cases, and now the discharge upgrade cases. I think those will satisfy people who want to spend a little bit more time the clinics were great, but oftentimes, your involvement would end right at the end there. And if people wanted to do a little bit more, it was a little difficult to do that. So I think we've got that range of opportunities that Rochelle mentioned before. And I think our biggest challenge is just to keep up with the interest level that we have and to come up with new partnerships and new interests across the country, because we have lawyers in a lot of different locations. And so DLA Piper has been amazing, helping us search out and vet those sorts of opportunities. So we're very grateful.
Well, thank you, Celeste. I appreciate that plug for DLA, but it's been a fabulous partnership with Verizon, and I know a number of our colleagues who've engaged with it. And one of the things that really jumped out too when you're describing the things that you've done is that the full range of services that you all provide to veterans, including the great story about the pair coming out of the military starting their own film company. It's those kinds of things too that help give them the leg up to start when they come out, and that's a fantastic story. So Jesse, you are like me, great Navy veteran, and you've been participating on our task force here as well, and you are really engaged on the pro bono side. But give me some of your, let us have some of your insights on what it takes to kind of engage folks here to provide those pro bono services to veterans. What are the things that you're doing along those lines, and what kinds of things do you think work best?
I'd also just like to thank everyone involved for including me on this panel. It's really an honor to be on such a distinguished and diverse panel. So I'm happy to be here. So in terms of engagement, and the way that I have been thinking about this is breaking it down between firms and then in-house counsel shops and also the VSOs that we collaborate with. And I think starting just from where I am at law firms, I think pro bono engagement has to start with recruiting initially. When I am interviewing new candidates, I always ask about what kind of pro bono they're interested in, what kind of pro bono they've done as law students. And so I really think that as soon as you start talking to candidates about joining a firm, I think that's when you start talking to them about pro bono, because I think that it's incumbent on us as big law firms to really ensure that our culture embodies this commitment to service. And I thought Alexandra's comment about having an office-wide or a firm-wide project is also really useful. DLA Piper, of course, has a signature project called Serving Those Who Serve Our Country. And I think that just having that kind of program in place helps to focus. It creates a center of gravity around veteran-oriented pro bono, and so it's a really useful thing to have in place. Our offices have some flexibility about which signature projects they make their own, but having that at an overarching institutional level is quite helpful. I also think, and this is another thing that we do at DLA Piper, I think it's a really great idea to have to identify veterans in the organization and to think about creating an affinity group for veterans, because groups like that can often be feeders for various veteran-oriented efforts, not only for pro bono work, but for things like recruitment through targeted events like the Veterans Legal Career Fair that's in DC annually, or has been when there hasn't been a pandemic on. I don't have a lot of insight about how in-house counsel think about this kind of thing, but I will say that if you're in an in-house counsel's office and you're looking for ways to engage on these issues and want to have more support, if you build it, firm lawyers will come. Firm lawyers are always looking for excuses to do things like this that are really engaging with clients and with clients' lawyers. And so I think it makes a lot of sense just to start having those conversations with the outside counsel that represent your company if this is something that's interesting. And I've myself done some work with lawyers from Verizon at the East Bay Stand down a few years back, where we helped organize, and Verizon, having had a long-standing commitment to veterans work, has been was eager to be involved. And so that kind of thing, it works really well. I think anytime if you identify a theme to focus on for your pro bono as an in-house shop, I think you're going to find that law firm lawyers are all too happy to join. And then for the organizations themselves, now I'll give a plug here to Swords to Plowshares, where I've been associated with them for a long time, and since my very first year as an associate at DLA Piper, have been working with them in some capacity or another. And I think that they are really expert at getting law firm buy-in. And one of the key tools they have is an advisory board that is all lawyers. They have a pro bono advisory board. I've been a member for many years, and just having being able to physically gather together lawyers from these firms and then button hook them about pro bono matters is a really useful. It's a useful way to kind of focus those firms on what's going on. It creates a touch point for things like financial contributions, around the time of, I don't know, maybe tomorrow's Veterans Day event that Swords to Plowshares is hosting. That kind of thing is, I think, well facilitated by having a board that's kind of that acts as a bridge between the organization and the firms. I'd also think that the comments made earlier about the need to the advisability of being a resource to pro bono lawyers, especially early on. If you've got firm lawyers who are maybe corporate lawyers or are tax lawyers, and you've managed to get them on board with a veterans benefit claim matter, there's going to be some discomfort from that lawyer. There's often a sense like, oh, this isn't really what I know. This isn't how I practice. And so being able to kind of hold hands, especially early on. And then, in the military, we always used to say, see one, do one, teach one. And so it's nice once you have that someone to kind of walk you through it, then you can do it yourself. And then before you know it, you're able to train others. And so I think that that kind of continuous engagement once you've got your hooks in a pro bono lawyer from a firm is really useful. And then in terms of the kinds of veterans work that I've done over the years, it's really quite varied. I actually recently worked on a team that filed an amicus brief in a case before the Federal Circuit on behalf of Swords to Plowshares and another VSO out of Connecticut. I was doing FOIA requests related to Human Rights Watch's investigation report on bad paper discharges. I have in the past done work at Swords to Plowshares VA clinics. I have also provided some kind of ad hoc legal advice to various VSOs, including Veterans Village of San Diego. And very early in my career, I was lucky enough to represent the San Francisco Posts of the American Legion, which was kind of the subtext of which was to help Swords to Plowshares obtain space in the Veterans Memorial in San Francisco, which if you've ever seen, it's a beautiful Beaux-Arts building. It's one of the last Beaux-Arts buildings built in the country, and it is dedicated in trust to veterans and to patriotic organizations that the veterans chose. And we helped get them into that building, and with I think, very reasonable real estate costs for downtown San Francisco. And I've done a smattering of other matters, including benefits cases. And as someone mentioned earlier, I've even helped with a couple of bankruptcies that were referred to us by Berkeley's Veterans Legal Clinic, and expungements related to stand-down events in San Diego and East Bay. So it's really been I've done a lot over the years with veterans, and I certainly expect to do more. I've been surprised, actually, in making a list for this presentation. I was surprised at the variety, and so if that's any indication, over the course of the 7-year career so far, I expect to have much more variety to come.
One of the things I often note, given my own work too, is that when you help a veteran get a discharge upgrade, or you help them with their combat-related special compensation or whatever it might be, the feeling you get from them is just extraordinary. Knowing that somebody's there to help them. And I'm actually on LinkedIn with the father of one of the servicemen I helped several years back. And he links in with me, sends me messages from time to time. And it's just grateful for the work that we did on behalf of his son. It's just fantastic. So I mentioned this earlier, COVID, we've heard several of the other panels talk about it. COVID now presents certain additional challenges, I think, for all of us on the pro bono front. And I'm just going to go around the board here. And Rochelle, you're up on the top left on my panel, so I'm going to turn to you first. How
Sure.
have you been? How have you been trying to meet the challenges of COVID and dealing with the demand for legal services, and yet everybody's working from home?
Well, we are pretty much a remote program, so I think we were less impacted than those that operate on a model of in-person, but we have had in-person clinics in the past. We have pivoted to more remote clinics, and so that has been one of the things that we are doing differently now. And when we do something in a location like in Washington, D.C., where we're located, it is, of course, only open to people in DC and people who, lawyers in DC. And we've done some clinics now remotely, and the veterans can be anywhere. And so we've had some remote clinics where our veterans are across the country and the lawyers participating are across the country. And it has actually opened some opportunities, and I think will be something that we will want to continue doing when hopefully in the near future we are able to all be together in a room and do in-person clinics. So, and the firms have loved them, and corporate partners have just loved doing remote clinics. They provide the platform, which is very helpful to us. So, remote clinics is something that was not in my toolkit before, and it is now.
Well, it's fantastic. Holly, how about you?
We have not moved to the remote clinic model yet, so our current clinics are on hold. And a lot of that has to do with just the logistics of a lot of our low income and homeless veterans don't have access to the type of technology that would be required. And also trying to have, it's already a challenging day for me to be in person and supervising 3 simultaneous intakes, but to try to do it on a phone and things like that. So we've still been able to serve those clients through our in-house swords attorneys doing phone intakes and providing the same services that a clinic would. And so I would say what's more so affected is, we've talked a lot today about the fact that there are so many individuals raising their hands, and that's amazing. But it's been a lot of work to create those opportunities and to pivot. And so our capacity to place cases and to have, put out research projects or records review projects and meet that need of volunteers while also trying to lift some of the work off of our in-house staff, that's definitely been a pivot for us. And so we have turned to things like remote research opportunities, FOIA-ing, or looking through FOIA results from various entities, government entities, as well as doing these records review projects that individuals can do remotely. But I think more so, it would be amazing if we had a few more hands raised to take on case opportunities, because that's something that really can be facilitated almost completely online. And so I think that that's where the need is, especially during COVID, since we don't have those in-person clinic opportunities.
Alex, how about you?
We've also been able to do some of the remote clinic opportunities. Like one of our projects that we've come up with since COVID is our Frontline Heroes project. And that is not only for veterans, but we've actually been able to present that project at our VA hospitals and been able to help a lot of the VA staff. And the Frontline Heroes project it's basically helping with advanced directives. So that's not too complicated to do over a remote setting. You don't have a whole bunch of paperwork that you need to review or anything like that. So some things you really can't do remotely, like Holly was saying. But with this one, that's something that we were able to do, and you can still help people and link them up with pro bono attorneys through Zoom like this. It can be done. You have to have somebody that's willing to sit down and, on the back end and set it up. But we are trying to still provide those opportunities or new opportunities for our pro bono attorneys to help. And then obviously still placing the cases as well for extended representation, which can be done by phone.
It's fantastic hearing all the things you guys are doing just to kind of make sure to keep the balls in the air here in your work. We're kind of coming down to the lightning round. I just want to ask any last comments from each of you about what you want folks to take away from today and from this panel. Holly, why don't I start with you?
Sure. So I think one takeaway I just would like to end with is, the delicate balance that we're all trying to find between meeting the needs of our clients while also facilitating the wants and needs of pro bono attorneys and pro bono partners. And I think that if we keep in mind, especially those of us who are in, firm or in-house counsels that are looking to partner with legal services organizations, just keeping in mind the amount of work that the LSOs have to do in order to provide these opportunities that are meaningful to both the client and the attorney. I really think that building out capacity and making sure that we're all spending our time purposefully and efficiently helps us so that we can A, reach more veterans, and B, reach more pro bonos and engage them. So that's something that I would hope everyone would take away.
Celeste, how about you?
Two things that we've found have been successful in getting a lot of people interested is both communicating a lot and celebrating a lot. So we're constantly communicating new opportunities, particularly in the veteran space. And then when people get a particularly good result or hit a milestone, we celebrate. And we have a big celebration every year about our pro bono program, and lots of people attend. We now do them in each of our offices, and we have clients come in, and we also have our volunteers speak, and they tell very compelling stories. And I think we have sign-up sheets at the back of the room when we have those celebrations, and that's the best time to get people to sign up when they hear about how inspiring some of these cases are. And then the second thing that I think we did right when we started, in addition to hooking up with DLA Piper, but we set up a very robust pro bono committee with regional coordinators. And so we meet monthly. We met monthly, and we had the regional coordinators kind of tap into the local opportunities, but then we synchronized with the larger group to make sure that we could collaborate across the different regions. And so that was great. We stayed connected, but we also had a focus on local opportunities.
I'm a big believer in celebrating great results, and it does inspire others too. So that's fantastic. Rochelle, takeaways from your end?
I agree with everything that's been said. Lawyers Serving Warriors is completely a pro bono program. And I think organizations should keep in mind that pro bono really expands the ability of a small staff to help a lot of people. And so have faith that this really can work to help your clients. And our pro bono partners are just fabulous, and they really are happy to help veterans. So, just to know that as you pitch veterans cases to law firms, you've got and corporate entities, you've got a very, very interested and committed group. With this pandemic and everything closing down, we had many firms and corporations coming to us and saying they wanted to do more, not less, in these difficult times. So I just wanted to close with appreciation and to encourage others to take the time, because it does take time to put together something for pro bono, but it is well worth it. Our pro bono partners do a fabulous job that we greatly appreciate it, and is well worth the time for legal services organizations to create those opportunities, place them, and mentor them.
That's great. Thank you so much, Rochelle. Jesse, you close it out. Your takeaways.
There'll be several tough acts to follow. In terms of how best to engage, I think that organizations are looking to engage pro bono lawyers should just really be thoughtful about their strategies. Not every strategy is going to work well for every organization. You know, like for instance, when I mentioned Swords to Plowshares Pro Bono Advisory Committee, that's Swords to Plowshares focuses on the Bay Area. That committee has a physical presence in the Bay Area, and those lawyers are brought together. And so it's a way that really encourages buy-in and ownership among those lawyers. But that's not going to necessarily work if you are more of a nationwide organization. And so I just would encourage organizations to really think hard about how to tailor those strategies. And then I think the other point I'd like to emphasize is just how what really comes out from all of the things that I've heard in the course of this task force's work is the importance of empathy, and the need to really understand where clients are coming from, not just veterans. Not every veteran is necessarily part of a vulnerable population, but many are, and many need help in ways that differs from how other clients and other pro bono clients need it. And I think that really coming to understand that as a lawyer, as an advocate, as an advisor, we should realize that it may be the particular way that veterans need our help. It may be unique, but the fact that they need help is not unique. And so what I hope is that we think about, and sometimes I bristle a little bit when I hear, that we need to treat veterans differently, I suppose, from other clients. And what I really think is, look, if these kinds of things work well for clients who are justice involved, or clients who are struggling with poverty, clients who are struggling with some of these other difficulties, maybe there's a lesson there for some of these other clients as well. And so, I just think that the empathy of the people involved has really shined through in this process. And I think it's reason to be hopeful for how we engage with clients in the pro bono setting overall.
Thank you, Jesse. And thank you to all of you today for joining, for our panelists in particular. It's just the work that you're doing is inspiring for all of us. And thank you. Keep up that great work.